in China and a number of other Asian countries, they think any specific, not necessarily spiritual, but any specific energy work, whether it's, Qigong healing for other people or for yourself or working on building the light body, all of that stuff, they call a broad term cultivation. You're cultivating your energy, but it comes from that base understanding that you're gardening, right? You're designing the garden, the landscape that you want to be. And they even have, Jesus, I wish I had that. I'll have to find that. I have a book that shows a very old line drawing of a Taoist line drawing of um, a garden that represents their cultivation techniques of how it's represented with, you know, all the elements in it, right? And it's like, and so they're like, you're pruning these things, you're planting these things. Some seeds, take a long time to germinate. Others, and which plants go together, which plants don't, all of those things. And there are large trees, there are ponds of water, there are waterfalls, there all of these things are represented, and you know, they've literally taken, because for Taoists and probably Shinto, who are just basically Japanese Taoists, they're, they take nature as the perfect representation of physical representation of the one. That's their trademark. You can go into the animals and all that stuff, but as part of nature, landscapes and why they do so many landscape paintings and all of this stuff, you would think they do it ad nauseum, right? But it's like because even when they're painting it, they're sort of projecting where they are within that picture. You know, all many of those things that I tell you guys, it's like there's a deeper meaning to like, see a clear picture of the world and your place in it.
Mhm.
And then, know where you are right now and what you'd like that to be, where you'd like to be. But if you know where you are right now, honestly, you'll know the first next steps to get to that place, or how you want to develop a painting, just like Dustin would do when he paints a landscape. It's not just a pure representation. I can take a fucking photograph and get that. It's not about the picture itself. It's about his energetic interpretation of that on. And I know I'm speaking for him, but that's the way I feel about it. That's why I feel, his stuff is so good because he's really captured the essence of that. So, but the same goes for us. And a lot of those pictures and paintings and a lot of the phrases that they use, people take it as like, oh, that's novel cultivation. Okay, well, they think of it as, like even in some of the, I wanted to say MAGA, but anime, Magna or whatever they call that, right? The manga or they've got a like,
I think it's mega.
is it?
I
And
think, yeah.
and all of those, they have a lot of that, so they've taken these things and they've literally, animated them, cartoonized them, if that's even a word, and make caricatures, right? They've made it into this stuff and and so people, even though it's a cartoon, younger people have taken that to mean like on a very superficial level, mystical or magical abilities or energetic abilities that, propel these, children with big swords to become these great warriors or mystics or whatever it is, right? With supernatural powers and all of this stuff. Well, on a certain level, it's kind of true. But, it takes a long time. They've made it into such a fable for children, but the underlying premise is true, that it takes many, many decades to get to that point, but it's not that it can't be done, right? So I mean, not jumping around with giant swords and flying through the air, but I mean, in essence, we don't know what the end result could be if more people sort of like glommed onto that idea from the not the literal first stage, but that's, in the secondary fable stage, right? Just, children's stories to teach morals, right? But it's like, looking for the, that third stage of initiatic, where it's not being initiated into a group or a club, but it's being initiated into the experience of what does it take? How much do you have to do? When do you do it to make it optimal? And once you start feeling and having those experiences, nobody has to push you to do it anymore because this is stuff that takes the barest minimum of materials to do. You're working on yourself. I cannot tell you. And I think there was a deeper lesson in this too, that we just didn't use a ton of stuff that was specialized. We just didn't. It was whatever we had at hand, whatever friggin' candles we had, whatever incense we had, whatever, we draw shit on paper. I remember in the temple drawing shit on paper and using it as a focus points for stuff. It was like they didn't care. It wasn't about the paper or the materials. If you could get better stuff that you could use more than once, awesome. But it wasn't like I remember him doing shit with a Sharpie on a piece of paper that had something on the other side of it. Had nothing to do with that. It was like, the symbol itself, kind of transported you or, did these things. It wasn't the materials by any means, Yeah, if you can make you can do stuff on parchment with oil paints and everything and mineral process stuff, but it's like, wow, great, you're a wealthy Taoist, it's like, but it didn't mean that, right? It wasn't that wasn't the thing that made it work. So, so
Yeah, it wasn't a better talisman because you had the best pens, the best paper.
no, not at all. I mean, just
Yeah,
like, for us, I mean, in the beginning, we used, you know, uh, regular martial arts, black uniforms because
yeah,
that's what it was, right? And he was trying to bring some authenticity to it. But in the end, Jesus Christ, we all wore sweatpants. We
yeah,
all wore, like at a certain level, it ain't your clothes, right? It was like,
yeah.
how are you going to put the most pressure on yourself? What's going to be the most comfortable for you to work in? It had nothing to do with any of that stuff. You Americanized it. You used that part that made you look like every other Joe in the street, right? It was just, so, and, it took a long time for me to like, it was really only until I started looking at the shaman, not even the Native North American shamans because they did the same shit. They had a couple of items that were sort of passed down or they had created to work, but it wasn't like you know, they made it like it was precious to them because it had been used for a long time. So it was sort of like they were creating imbued items that probably would be passed down to their, apprentices or whatever when it was time. But, not like, I'm just using it as an example, like Four Winds or places like them, where it's like all about, your stones and all about your, altars and all about your, all about the stuff and the feathers and the this and the that, as if those were the things that really held the power. It's like they have some inherent energy, everything does. But it wasn't like that was the thing that was either making it work or not making it work, right? But that just doesn't transfer. And so it was only when I was exposed to that I saw some of the inherent flaws in people learning that stuff. It's like they're putting their emphasis, that's a Western culture idea. It's like, you know, if you're gonna street race, you gotta have a Ferrari. It's like, there's it's like the best shit that you can get actually makes you better. And it's like, no, nothing could be farther from the truth. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And, and I think one of the reasons that I was so effective in those quarters was because I wasn't trained that way. We never had shit. We never had stuff. It was just like you had to work with nothing, no net. It's like it was only the focus of your mind. It was only the ability for you to do what you could do with nothing, you know, and and that was it. And and it's like, and so then when you give, I mean, I was like, oh my God, it's like, give me this focus item. It's like, you know, on one hand, it was like, I didn't care, but on the other hand, it was like, oh, this is cool. Look at this nice focus item. That'll make it a hell of a lot easier.
You got me thinking because when Dustin asked, what do you mean by cultivation? See, and maybe this isn't a good analogy. See, I have really enjoyed making bread.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I combine the ingredients and then I got to let it sit and rise. And I can't control that.
Right.
But I have to wait until it's risen enough before I can take it
Yep.
and put it in the oven. And now I'm thinking, wait a minute, isn't that basically an alchemical process?
Absolutely is.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
you know, here in America, I can go buy bread or but I can't mix the dough, I'm sorry, the flour, the salt, the yeast and the water, and then boom, I have bread.
Yeah. Or, like they even make a middle territory, right? Have you seen those ones that are like half baked and then you bring it
Yeah,
home
we'll
and you put
send
it in
you
the
the
oven?
dough
Oh,
and
fresh
yeah,
break bread.
yeah,
It's like, I mean, I'm like, we have captured every market to make things convenient,
yeah.
for people. And it's like, okay, but God
So
forbid anything happen. It's only people like you that are going to be making bread because you're the only one. And Nina, because it's like they know how to do it from scratch without even any yeast. Right?
yeah,
It's like the natural yeast in the air. It's like, I mean, she makes sourdough like nobody's business now, and it's
yep.
like she's got it down. And
And to a certain extent, with Qigong or this work, you you do the work and then you have to let it sit and cultivate and rise before you move on to the next step.
well, I mean, even when I tell people, which is a good reminder to constantly say to people, it's like you whatever you're doing, whatever work you're doing, you know, don't, at the end of it, sit there for a minute and let it settle, right? Let that energetic resonance that you've just produced, whether you're frustrated, whether it didn't go well, or whether it went spectacular, and let it, let yourself, sort of stew in that for a minute. Let
Yeah,
your sphere of sensation absorb that, concentrate it, dissipate it in and out, sort of blend it with what you were before you sat down. That's such an
yeah,
important part, and so few people do it. We're so, we've kind of pushed it into the realm where, like, oh, I know the burning meditation is really important, so I'm going to do it, but I only have this amount of time, so I'm going to crush it in this amount of time, which, to some degree is okay. But then I'm gonna extend it so much that I'm gonna like immediate when that alarm goes off, I jump up, I put out my candle, I, snuff my incense, and I'm out the door running to work. And it's like, you've to some degree you've left, you've taken away the best part of that, which is like, how do you assimilate that into the rest of you? Right. And it's just
yeah,
so funny but it's that part of like, even within this work, there is like, let's say, um, you know, we can even say the actual, if I'm using burning meditation, like the actual going through the whole process of doing the burning meditation is the convergent focus, and the open focus is letting yourself sit in that for a few minutes before you get up and walk away. So without that, it's really very one-sided. You're still getting some benefit, but not nearly the benefit you could get if I mean, we can break things down all day to the most, smallest increment in that same idea, that same process, right? It's a matter of, again, like I was telling Dustin last night and everybody else, that infinity symbol is the interior exterior part, the convergent focus, the divergent focus, you know, and if you only have one side, it's a closed circle. you want it to be that exterior interior, right? You want it to be interior exterior. See how, the changes that you've made in yourself reflect in your environment and vice versa. you know I guarantee you, nobody, I don't think anybody would really um argue, maybe in the most extreme kind of reactions, but most people aren't that skilled. You know, what would be most beneficial for the mean? Would it be doing the meditation in a garden that's nicely tailored and peaceful and whatever, or doing it on top of a landfill, garbage dump? I mean, that, like most people, it wouldn't be a choice unless you really wanted to be, ridiculous and start, bantering around like it shouldn't matter. Well, yeah, it shouldn't, but, you'd have to be at such a level of mastery that it wouldn't matter, you know, and that's not most people. So, we can look at all of those things, and it's like, so I just feel like the more times that people, when they get these concepts, they can be kind of like, again, maybe in the beginning they take it literally and they accept it, or at least on um, a limited acceptance. And then again, that second stage is, sort of looking at it as a maybe not quite as abstract, but something in that territory. And then when they really have the experience of it, they can take it as a principle and apply it to every single thing in their life. And it makes your idea of the world, your picture of the world, much more clear. And, I mean, I think that's where you guys are now. It's like you're really, you're taking these concepts, abstract concepts, and sort of applying them in, an actual way. And, it's sort of making all the effort, all the fuzzy edges sharp and clear. It's just, how I see it, but it just seems to be proving true. So. So the biggest thing for, all of us is to, recognize the energy that's coming, since we've already established that looking in hindsight, we've already, aligned ourselves with the energy that came before, and we've done a shit ton more internal experience and setting up new programs and, getting rid of old selves and bringing in new selves and all of that. That the biggest challenge for us will be, don't burn out in this, especially in the first year of this, quite, I mean, quite a long cycle by people standards, but not very long in regular standards, right? So 14 years is quite a, I mean, you know, there'll be other rotations and how it's augmented, but if we know that that background energy is always going to be sort of that, you know, um, active spirituality rather than a passive introspective spirituality. I mean, there's always going to be that aspect of it, but it's going to be more of like, how do you want to express this? Not just in your life, but how is it going to be expressed outwardly, you know? And this first year is going to be, it's going to be really aggressively active, So for us, it's like understanding where we are, not burning ourselves out in this first get up and go start. Fire is a, I mean, they don't call it horsepower for nothing, right? So we've just put ourselves in a Formula One, without really only understanding that's a steering wheel and this is the gas and this is the brake. But other than that, we have no experience driving something like that, or very little. I mean, the last time this came around was 60 years ago. I mean, I'm not thinking I have much experience from, 5 years, 5 years old, so
Yeah.
so that's kind of the deal. Um, yeah, and for the rest of us, kind of in the same territory, right? So, mm, and yeah, so looking at it that way makes, makes a little more sense. At least we have the cursory understanding of that, and we can be guarded in understanding when we might be doing too much or not doing too much. It's always good to check in with ourselves to say, you know, I don't worry about you guys, just like I don't worry about myself about not doing enough. It's more about like, am I burning the candle at both ends? And because the impetus, the energy itself will want us to do that. And because you're aligning yourself with it, it's going to push you to do that. And you're going to feel like that's no problem. And we have to be able to look objectively and go, part of us has to step back and go, I might need to relax a little bit here, or I might need to take a break here, or I might, maybe that's too much. Anytime I get that thought in my head of like, I can do one more, it's like, you're just looking for, a beating, it's like, and you're doing it to yourself. So that's the counterpart of being sensitive, right? Is like, you get in that flow, it's hard to resist. So it's, we have to sort of have a part of us that's objective, that's saying, maybe it's time to like just step back and take a look, and then we'll go back again.
Yeah, it's the difference between running a 100-meter race and a 1,400-meter race.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, don't you can't burn yourself out of
You
the gate.
can't. There's very few, people that could, there will be times when you need to do it, but, you don't have to be in that place all the time.
Yeah,
Nobody can do that. I mean,
yeah.
this is
Pace yourself.
you
Yeah,
got to,
yeah,
it's like, look, we've been doing this enough time. We know when we're not doing what we could be doing. Nobody could convince me that you guys don't know when you literally are not doing enough. I mean, it there's no way. So, but it is on the other side, it's a little more tricky to see, like when you're doing too much. It's the nature of the beast. It's like it's because if you're, I believe that you've done enough work that, you know, things can feel like, wow, this was way easier and I'm getting farther ahead than I've ever been able to get. And those experiences are very seductive. And so, and can promote you to do that. So it's like just anytime you start having that feeling, it's like just take a breath and look at it. It might be fine to keep going, but it's like just to have that discernment to say, let me let me look at this twice before I step into this again.
yeah.
That's all. That's all it is. It's like, look, knowing there's a trap is the first step in avoiding it, right? It's like it's very seductive on this end, because we push so hard all the time to get what we can get out of it. So when it comes a little bit easier because that flow is so strong, you know, it's hard to pull that back and go like, oh, okay. Let me acclimate to this and then we'll come back fresh. But I don't know. It's gonna be a squirrely time anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how things turn out for everything, not just not
Oh
just
yeah.
us personally, but with the backdrop of what's going on in our environments too, you know.
Oh yeah. Thinking back to the 1960s. Yeah.
Like I said, the last time fire horse year, that was the height of the Vietnam War, and that was also when um, Mao's Cultural Revolution started too.
And and the civil rights movement
Civil
and the
rights, the height
protests
of the civil
and
rights movement. Yeah.
yeah,
All of that stuff was
yeah,
at the same time. So that's, we can look at that and say, okay, if that's the place, that's the type of energy that produces that kind of result. We have being aware of that can give you a heads up before,
yeah.
anything might be going on there. So,
You think Dustin's going to start looking more like Che Guevara?
you know, if he starts doing it now, he might, by the end of the year, he might have that,
I
cap.
think he'll look good with a beret.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just don't think I can grow
and
the
a
hair.
cigar like Fidel, and a
Yeah.
cigar, it's
And
like.
the bandolier, so but it'll have paint tubes and brushes and
Oh my God. I bet we could get AI. I bet we could get Nils to get AI to paint a picture like that.
Yeah, you should see some of the AI generated images of me that Nils has made in the
Oh my
last couple of
God,
years.
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I love it. So what else? What else is
oh,
happening? You look like you're in, you know, deep contemplation there, my
yeah.
friend. Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really tired.
And really tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, I'm just
But it's a good tired.
all of the things that you said were just so awesome. Like I think the only I mean there's a few things that came up when you were talking, but um like one of them was just like I think after this last, I mean even just hearing you talk today and then the way you were talking last night on the call, I don't know what if you feel like you've done anything differently or what, but like after that, but this to me it's after that last live call that we put out to everybody and let anybody join in on. I don't know if that struck you in a particular way or caused you to I don't know, reorient something inside yourself, because I feel like there's a I don't know, a level of like clarity and intensity in you speaking that's a little bit up leveled up, which I feel like I'm noticing and appreciating. You seem stronger and more intense in a good way. Not in a bad way, not like, oh, he's too intense. Like I just mean like you're more, it's almost like if there was like a restriction valve or something on you, like usually, I mean, I feel like that's like got like been broken open over the years of us like working together and doing to be silent stuff, but it feels like another gasket opened or something. Like I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
It does. I mean, I think, just like you guys, um, you know, add 20 or 30 years of work on top of where you are. I mean, if there's anything, it's made me extremely sensitive to the more subtle energies, and you know that not so much the Chinese New Year, that energetic flow of this year, but the background of that Neptune and Aries. That's
oh yeah.
a place where you know it's like I for me that feels like being this sounds so trite because people say it all the time, but um and that's the only reason that I hesitate to say it. But to you guys, I would say, it's like this is, me owning, what I am.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. It's like the
Yeah. That's
next few years is me, not I've always been in it, but I've kept it to myself. And so, with only letting people see what I thought they could deal with, or what they could see, what they could take. And now, to be honest, I just don't give a fuck anymore. So it's like I am what I am and I do what I do, and it doesn't matter to anybody but me, and for those people that um you know want to question or learn or whatever, I I've always put it out there that I would teach them whatever I know, from through experience, so um but but part of that is, you know, living that aspect of myself to such a level that the that background context will come through now, so that they can see, what's going on, and hopefully relay that in a way that they can start to feel that as well. So
Really
And
happy
hey,
about that.
you're
for
really
what
what?
Really happy about that.
Oh,
yeah,
it's still
I
me.
think
It's
back
just
I think back to a story you told many years ago when you were with Alex
Yep,
and there was a student, and I think it might have been in a martial arts class. You're
yep.
like, this guy does not belong here.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. And Alex was like, okay, either he'll rise to meet the vibration of what is,
Right,
or he'll leave.
right,
Okay. So what I basically heard you say a couple of seconds ago was in order to let somebody else really be who they are, you have to be who you are.
right, right.
And that's the journey for each of us.
It's true. And
Yeah.
everybody has to get there when they can get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, that's I think this is the timing for me that's right. So, you know, so that's something that I did, God, how many years ago now? God, it's got to be 15 years ago, 14 years ago, somewhere in that range. So a whole nother, at least from a Chinese standpoint, a whole nother zodiacal cycle, right? At least 12 years. Um, I had done this, you know, ritual or whatever that, uh, I mean, it was very pleasant. There was nothing negative about it that I can remember anyway. I mean, I never have any bad memories about it, but I remember being told something at the end of it, and and just like I was telling you guys at the time, I just sort of thought, oh, okay, like, oh yeah, I get that, but I only got it on that literal part.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've worked through back and forth both the positive and negative aspects of it in myself, that second stage of what are the morals, what are the morals of this, going forward. I mean, on some levels, I would be like, oh, you know, that makes sense. And then other times I'd be like, but what the fuck? It's like that, you know, I hate that, because I've told people
Yeah.
for a long time, don't do that, at least don't do it now, that kind of thing. So going back and forth, but it's really only been in the last couple of weeks, really pretty much since, remember I told you I had that dream that was so odd and all of that stuff, and I was still working through the details of it, and
Yeah.
I had another one of those, the same components, last night after the talk and whatever, and then all of this stuff, and that was the that was the thing that came back to me, was that one statement at the end of that ritual that I was told. And uh, and now it's like it makes initiatic sense, and I think that that's what spurred all this on, that's just like,
What was the
I
message?
can't tell you that.
Oh,
Not now. Sometime you'll get it, I know it will happen because it's something that comes to everybody at a certain stage. So, and but you have to step into it, right? You have to embody that. And it took a long time, like I said, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 15 years where it's taken me to sort of like move into it, where I didn't move into it as an intellectual thing. I moved into it because it's true for me now. So,
It reminds me of I was watching two videos of Sadhguru that I wanted to mention. One of them
mm,
was like he was saying somebody was asking him like what's the role of a guru or like what's the purpose of a guru or whatever. And he was saying like he's basically articulating the idea that like well first of all he was saying like basically because you have a mind and like you you need somebody to like talk to you all the time to like guide you through all this stuff, but he was like if you were just like complete if you were like one just 100% receptivity and not like making your own like thinking all the time and like creating your own like beliefs and ideas and thoughts and like holding this like mental structure all the time and you were just completely open. He was like grace or like the one is everywhere, so it doesn't need and you don't need anything. He's like you don't even need like
right,
an enlightened master from the past. He's like a blade of grass could be your guru. It
right.
doesn't matter, you know. But
Yeah.
he's like, but people aren't in that state. So it was just the reason that I thought of that was when you were talking about sitting at the end of your meditation. It's almost like the meditation part of the function of the meditation is to produce a state of higher receptivity, so you're more open to like receive whatever insight or perspective or energy that will boost you up, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
because in its essence, I mean, it's funny you said that because it's like in essence, and I said this to somebody, a patient yesterday who I've known for years and years, and uh, and I again because of because of where I am right now, I said it to her because I thought she would be receptive to it. It might have almost been a little if she wasn't sitting, in a comfortable position, I think she would have been on the floor. That's the impact that it had on her. And I said, and it's something that I've said many times to everybody, right? It's like, what do we really all want? Like if you could have one thing out of all of this stuff consistently, what would it be? And they'll go through all these things, but when I say it, people really want this, I would say as a universal thing. They want conversation with the one or an aspect of the one. They want contact. They want, to have a conversation with an aspect of the one or many aspects of the one that that would alleviate so much stress in their lives because they could let that go, you know.
yeah,
But in
and I
order to do that, you have to leave space for him or it to talk to you. We do these things. Again, the convergent focus is me talking, the open focus is me giving a break so that it can answer, right? Or talk back to me. Silence is the thing that lets that happen. We sit at the end so that so that the one can speak to us in whatever way it wants to, you know, and that's of paramount importance. And it's the thing that even people that are walking the spiritual path don't do, consistently don't do. They don't give space. They don't allow silence to inform them what's going on, and to allay their fears, to give them guidance, to have a conversation. A conversation isn't me just yammering away and never giving a person the chance to speak. We've all known people like that, and they're annoying as shit, right? And you don't want to be around them any length of time, right? They just never fucking shut up. So you have to give a chance for somebody to, if you really want conversation, if you really want insight, you have to allow space for that. And it's such an important part. And again, it's one of those parts that most people, even working in this space, don't do. They don't allow for that. And it's kind of sad because it's simple and, it doesn't take anything else, It's funny that the thing that's the most profound is the thing that it takes very little for you to do except sit down and shut up, you know? And it's like,
The other thing that the video that I watched was him talking about water, and he talked a lot about it. And but one of the things he said gave me like a really different perspective on the idea of like anthropomorphizing and also like the elements being alive. Like you you talk about that in a way that is like you give when you say that, you do it like you kind of present it like it's the truth, or it could be the truth, but you also tend to articulate it in a way that's like that's what works for me to anthropomorphize it, right? And I love it when you talk about that, like when you're talking about the Hebrew letters being entities or anything like that, right? um but in this video he was talking about water. Oh, and he was saying how water responds to you will determine the level of like your health and your energy. And he said it like several times in a few different ways, but it was like it made me think of my cat, it made me think of Asha, right? And like how I like treat her and like the energy that I approach her with, and like kind of like the relationship that we have or the trust that we have, right? And like I know that I don't know, it might seem silly, but like it's almost like it just made me start to think about and treat water that way.
mhm,
Like, oh, like don't treat it like it's not like it's not alive, like it's not responding to you, like it's not an aspect of the one, right?
right,
And I feel like sometimes when we talk about like, oh, charging water or charging food or like um speaking to water or speaking to the elements or whatever, right?
right,
Like it gave me this different sense of, because sometimes I don't feel like I want to talk, like I don't have
right.
anything to say, or I don't want to like for it like project something into the water to like drink, but it's almost just like having a different attitude toward it. I feel like is like a just like an effortless way of like being engaged on that level, instead of like, yeah, like trying to force it, I guess, or something like
Well,
that.
it's like a symbiosis, right? Would probably be the best word to describe that, right? It's like, it's not like you're consuming something that has a neutral or inherently good or bad quality to it, right? It's like it's it's something that you actually give that back to some degree as well, right? And so and and that's the case with all the elements, right? It's not just water, but all of the elements are like that. It's like, if you start treating them separate, I mean, if you do it on an elemental level, what makes you think that that wouldn't be the same for your friends or
Right.
your loved ones or your animals or whatever, right? Your
Well, it
home.
well it makes it because it's like you I respond to everybody in a certain way, like based
Hmm.
on who they are or how they approach me or what attitude they come with or
Right.
whatever. It's like inherent, you know?
Yep.
So it's like just treating it as if that's doing that. It's everything's responding to you. Like what it he said something in the inner engineering course that was like that too. It was almost like he was, God, I forget. I have to rewatch the video, but it was good. He was just, but he was talking about the same thing I said about the water was like the same thing for everything. Like,
Yeah.
like everything's responding to you now, you know? And it's
Right.
like, okay, yeah. You know?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, if
Right.
you think about it, everything is relationship.
There's no doubt about it.
And I agree with you. It's I have a relationship with the one. I would like it a little different,
Sure.
but it's getting
But
better.
that's what, we do that with relationships. We do that with friendships, right? It's like, oh, that person seems very interesting. I'd like to have a different relationship with them than I have right now, which is just a cursory, hey, how you doing, man? And listen to them talk or what they're interested in and whatever. And then, oh, wow, could you tell me more about, like hey, could you come and have a cup of coffee with me sometime? It's like, these are the things, right?
Yeah.
It's like we do that with all of our relationships, if we're interested in pursuing it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with like, okay, that's not somebody that I really want to engage with or whatever. And, because there's a bunch of them out there, right? It's like nothing could be, more true. There's 7 billion fish in the sea, right? So it's like, you can't be, on a personal friendship relationship with all 7 billion at once, at least not this lifetime. So, you know, uh, you might have glimpses of that in a samadhi experience, but it's not the same thing as, like, hey man, let's go get a cup of coffee and talk about this thing or whatever it is, right? Um, so yeah, but if you do that, and if you're not in a position to, you don't feel you're in a position to do that with people yet, you know, do it with the elements and start with water and then move from there, right? And all of these things. I mean, for Christ's sake, the earth grows your food. It's like whether it's walking on four legs or, or roots in the ground, right? It's like there's a relationship with the earth there that you
Yeah.
can, cultivate, right? So, it all comes together. I mean, that's the thing. That's when we get these, truly, gobsmacked aha moments, when we start spinning that out in a controlled way that it sort of impacts us all at once and we go, oh my God, but if that's true, then this is true, then this is true, then this is true. And it's like, when you have that paradigm shift, it shifts everything in your environment. It can't not. It's not possible to have those shifts and not be shifted in every situation, in every territory of your life. It can't be. So, it's like, um, so I feel like that's where we are at this moment in time. So, you know, happy to have you guys along as company.
Dustin, I don't know about you. I really want to watch Brian Osborne on a fire horse. I
streaking
think it
across
would be a hell of
streaking
a
across the
painting
field
too.
going, what?
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did update our group chat to be silent bros, and I made I made the image the Grinch riding the red dragon Christmas tree ornament.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to get me one of those.
So yeah, maybe we should change it to an AI generated image of Brian riding a fire horse. I don't know. Or the three of us in like some kind of, what do you call that if there's like,
Like the three amigos.
There
yeah,
you go.
what what do you, yeah, what's,
Dustin will shoot the invisible swordsman.
yeah.
I think each time you should get, I think Nils' new territory should be like making several generated, AI generated things with the three of us with our faces on it. First the fire horrors and then spiritual warriors, three amigos, just go, MAGA, like all
Okay.
Oh
these,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're
Like
right, like
Japanese
the
like
Japanese.
elemental warriors.
Yeah.
Dustin, would you say we have a plethora of members?
What? Would I say we have a plethora of members?
He's
Yeah.
he's missing he doesn't get it because he doesn't know that.
I don't know what you're talking about. With
This is where the youth comes through, right?
yeah, you
Oh my
I'm just trying
God.
to hang, you know.
Okay.
You got to give, at some point you got to give him the reference of that. So it's like, so he can look it up and have a good laugh on his own somewhere.
Yeah.